Hello and welcome to Tarrasque Me Anything, the D&D podcast that has inspiration but won't remember to use it. My name's Will McAfee, also known online as the Arcade Wizard, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ale. How you doing today, man?
I'm uninspired.
Uninspired? No, you have inspiration. Anytime you want it, you have it. Do you need a token?
No, we'll never use it.
I'm
still never exactly sure how to use it.
Yeah, well, it depends on your DM. Most of the time, it's inspiration on a roll. I literally forget to give it out sometimes.
Because it's hard to figure out exactly what it is. It's just like, just say what it is.
Oh, no.
It's easier to just use a bardic inspiration. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Well, no, inspiration, like I said, I think most of the time is you just get advantage on a roll, and I do want to reward players for doing cool things. I always forget that I can give them inspiration, so sometimes I'll look at them and I'm like, oh yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, fuck yeah. And then they just stare at me blankly, and I'm like, okay, moving on. Just forget. Anyway.
Yep.
So today we don't have anything in particular to talk about. You just kind of wanted to shoot the shit, see what happens, which is okay. I don't know if that will be really entertaining, and if it's not, no one will hear this episode. So is there anything in that vein though you wanted to talk about in particular? Do you have any ideas, or what's up, man? How's it going?
I mean, there was something earlier I was thinking about, which is like different and somewhat interesting kinds of big bad evil guys.
Okay.
Of which I was briefly talking with you about.
Yes.
And that is the idea that, well, imagine there's been a world-ending crisis.
Okay.
And it's been saved by a group of adventurers.
All good things.
And, you know, they had their camaraderie and everything on the way. All of them have moved on to bigger and better things, except one who can't move on from the party itself. So he starts causing, you know, problems and disasters behind the scenes, clearly, because he needs to hold up his image because he wants to try and get the party back together. But They're never quite big enough, attracting the attention of smaller parties, adventuring parties, so he starts trying to get them killed off.
So this guy straight up
and eventually
causes disasters just to try to get his friends back together to solve them.
Yes.
He doesn't think they would solve it and figure out that it's him?
No, because well, I don't know. It's like, they might. But at this point, he just thinks that's the only way he can stay in touch. That's the only way friendship has ever worked out for him.
That's tragically sad.
It is, but also it's like, this is a person that actively saved the world, and people know that he helped save the world. But that was the only time he successfully made friends.
Right. I'm going to say two things here. And the first one is, I like that concept from the perspective of, I like adding depth to my villains. You know, you don't want Tarrasque to be the final boss, because at the end of the day, it's just a big kaiju monster that you fight. You really want...
And apparently violates castles.
Yeah, I don't know. Put a pin in that. Let's get back to that. You're going to have to explain that one. But yeah, you want your villains to have a air of like, oh, I can see where he's coming from. Like what they, what they work on with like Thanos and all that, like genuine, like, okay, I can see why this guy did that, and I love doing that.
Yeah, he's very bad at math.
Right, exactly. I have this infinity gauntlet. I could half all the resources, or I could have all the people in the world, or I could just double the resources. Who knows? Anyway, the other thing I wanted to say to that point is, have you ever heard of Not Another D&D podcast?
Maybe.
Not to mention another podcast about D&D, on our podcast about D&D. But this is like a live play show, and it's got Emily Axford, the guy from Drawfee that left. God, what is his name? I can't remember these guys' names, but it's like Dropout adjacent, right? I think they're their own thing, but like that's kind of their plot. Like it's the campaign after the campaign. There's a group of heroes that save the world. These are the new guys coming in, and then like the ramifications of them actually saving the world are falling into the current narrative, and all of the old heroes are involved somehow. It has nothing to do with one of the old guys trying to make friends, at least not that I know of. I'm only like halfway through season 1.
Dive.
But yeah, let me cast.
But yeah, it's like I could just imagine that in a campaign setting, the player's party would be the one that just keeps not dying, which is driving that old character absolutely insane.
Yeah. Okay, so Brian Murphy is the DM, and Emily Axford is one of the players. Both of those people you should know from Dimension 20. And then they also have Jake Hurwitz, who has another podcast with them. And then Caldwell Tanner is the guy from Drawfee, who also, like, amazing animator. I think he did, like, a show on Disney and that kind of stuff. And it's fucking hilarious, dude. If you like Dimension 20, I highly recommend Not Another D&D Podcast. But yeah, that's the exact plot. So, again, though, not to focus too much on another podcast during our podcast, I will pivot. What were you saying about the Tarrasque?
Oh, so
our loving mascot, the Tarrasque.
I was just delving through Facebook Shorts or YouTube Shorts. At this point, they're kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And there was someone that was going over this picture of a Tarrasque that at the moment did not look like it was actually doing something to this castle, but then mentioned that this is a picture of a Tarrasque violating a castle, which then proceeded to drown everyone in the dungeon, and I'm like, oh, sweet God, no.
Oh, no. Maybe he was peeing on it.
I don't... But then I looked at it, and it's like, its arms are on top of the castle, and I don't know how to read Tarrasque facial expressions. I don't know what's going on here, but I don't like it.
Yeah, you think we could get that on a t-shirt? Do you think
No.
Do you think anyone would buy that?
No, it's already an image. Someone's already done this.
Fair enough. Dang. Yeah,
honestly, I just call that thing a Tarrasque.
Very good. Yes. Applause. All right. That's cool. So, big bad evil guy. I like the concept, man. But yeah, I feel like it would get to a certain point where shit keeps happening, and they would just be like, you know, you always seem to know a lot about this shit going on. Oh
yeah, like in a campaign setting, I would hope the party catches on to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of think it'd be hard to put a whole campaign around. I will say something. I was about building a new campaign. I was thinking, I got this idea yesterday, and this is a real like American legend. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries, and have you ever heard of Beale's Treasure?
No.
Okay, so this is some real like fucking national treasure shit. But this guy, I think he had like a mining company in New Mexico or something, and he unearthed thousands of pounds of gold and silver, and it was like worth $20 million in the 80s when the show aired, and I looked it up recently. It was worth like 40 something million dollars in 2018. And he went to Virginia, Bedford County, and he buried it. And he specifically mentions that he puts it in iron pots with iron lids, and he buried all this gold. Then he proceeds to make 3 ciphers, right? And out of the 3, only the first one has been coded. And what they did to figure it out is they took the first letter of each word of the Declaration of Independence and numbered it, and it corresponds to the entire note that he wrote, and it describes exactly what I just said, that the gold is in this amount, it's in Bedford County, it's in the iron pots. So people have been trying to figure out for years. I think this happened in like the 1890s maybe. So people have been trying to like figure out these ciphers and going broke finding this gold, and people are so confident that they're cracking these ciphers, and no one's found it to this date, and the whole town around it is kind of like, oh, I don't know that there's even a fucking treasure, we would have found it by now. But they're happy to like take people's money and excavate where they tell them to. So I kind of had this idea where same exact fucking thing. There's a legend of buried treasure. There's 3 ciphers. One tells you where to start. The other 2 are still ciphered. And then the town it's supposedly in is like a fucking tourist trap. Like, think, you know, Bigfoot signs in the window, except it's about Arkanthor's treasure or some bullshit, right? And people are like selling t-shirts with gold on it. They're like doing tours of locations where it might have been spotted, and things like that. And at the end, obviously, this is a horde, so the dragon is the big bad evil, you know? But I thought that could be a lot of fun.
It's either a dragon is the big bad evil because the treasure's real, or it's the gift shop owner because it's not.
Well, here's the thing. The gift shop owner, the person profiting most off of this is the dragon. The treasure's not there.
Oh,
the hoard is somewhere else. The hoard is in another castle, and they're just adding to it. Every day, those tourist dollars just going straight in the hoard.
Oh god, no, and that would be the subplot, or like the treasure hunt beneath the treasure hunt is they figure out, oh, this whole thing is fake, and then they go to the next one and it's like, but it's in another castle, and they just keep doing that until they realize it's Mario'd.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, I was watching this thing, I was just like, that'd be a great D&D game. It's got, you can set up a villain, it's got a mystery, it's got coded ciphers, and if you have like pre-established lore in your campaigns, or you're using something that's already pre-established, there is this whole aspect of like decoding the Declaration of Independence. Like, there is this national treasure aspect. You could absolutely fucking do that if you have like a king or some sort of Magna Carta or important document. That could be part of the fucking cipher, so they could like quest to get this thing that they really shouldn't get, and then the laws on them, you know.
Yeah, and they have this counter team that's also trying to get it, but is really disrespectful about the way they do it. And their nemesis is Sean Bean.
Yeah, and then you could introduce Nicholas the Cageman.
Yes, glorious.
Yeah. But before his menagerie of minor monsters.
Yes.
To the listeners out there, Nicholas Cageman and the Menagerie of Minor Monsters is something that is a work in progress. That is just an inside thing right now. Well, we will touch on later. That's a little teaser for you guys.
But also, then you get to, you know, as you go along, decide whether or not there actually is a treasure at the end, or if you're just being a massive dick.
That is your choice as a DM to decide whether or not you're an asshole or if there's actually treasure.
And then it's up to your players to figure out if you're just being a massive asshole.
The treasure was the friends you made along the
way. So it's like the dragon could actually be hoarding a treasure, or its hoard is making people suffer.
I
Searching
think
for shit that doesn't exist.
I think it's more fun if there's actually a dragon you can fight and then treasure you can claim. You know, it would kind of be it makes people feel like they've wasted their time if they get through all that and there's like a big nothing burger at the end. You know, conflicts need resolution.
Yes. But what would be slightly better is if they keep fighting, if they kill the dragon, go to somewhere else to try and find the horde, and they have to fight the same dragon because it's a fucking lich dragon that has just been this bored.
They kill the dragon and then they realize, man, we're making way more a day in tourism dollars than we could ever spend. Let's just keep the mystery alive. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, that was my idea. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries and I was like, that's mine. I'm taking it.
Yeah, it's either you either defeat tourism or become it.
Yay, capitalism.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, anything else kicking around there, you know?
Oh no, my brain is quite empty most of the time.
Yeah. I had an idea briefly. I didn't think we could make a whole episode out of it, but I wanted to kind of toss some like D&D themed would you rather questions at you. And I don't have any prepared because like I said, I was not preparing for this at all. But I was thinking we could either do like a little segment of that, because I think a whole episode would be a little much. But yeah, just like a hypothetical here, I guess it'd kind of be like, would you rather, as a DM, have a player with 1,000-page backstory who insists on inserting it into the game, or murder hobo? That is an example. I feel like this is an easy choice for me, and I kind of copped out on it a bit. But I am interested to hear what you say.
It's kind of difficult because, honestly, at a certain point, I hate both.
Yeah, well, for me, I would take the backstory any day of the week, because it shows initiative, and it's stuff.
Yes, I would if the backstory wasn't 1,000 pages.
Yeah, I do want to clarify, literally 1,000 pages. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah, no.
This is a would you rather. He wrote 3 novels explaining his character's story arc, and he was level 1.
That really is the size of about 2 small young adventure books.
Yeah, I was thinking like 300-page books. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, listen, I will have forgotten what happened in the first book by the second book.
Yeah. But on the other hand, vicious murder hobo. You introduce your NPC in a tourist town that you followed a cipher to get to, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm Gurnan, the bartender. Oh, I stab him. What? You what? Oh, I stab him in a public place. Yes, I stab him."
Yeah, no, I still cannot stand murder hobos. I gotta go with the 1,000-page backstory, but I will look at him and say, "Cliff note this shit."
Yeah. But yeah, that's just an example. I figured with more prep time, I could write a couple ahead. I did try to Google them real quick while we were talking, but the internet's got lame ones too.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't do them at all. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about? Because I do have a couple more things.
I mean, I do kind of have a really dumb would you rather.
Yeah, lay it on me.
Would you rather be the child of a well-known murder hobo character or the parent of an up-and-coming edgy rogue character?
Oh no. Oh no.
Either way, it's not gonna be good.
Oh no. Well, the second one, obviously, that just means you're gonna die, right? Your fate is sealed.
Yeah, but how bad?
The first one, you're the child of a murder hobo, is that right?
You're the child of a murder hobo.
I feel like you can escape that. You know, I feel like you can move to another town, change your name, and that could be an interesting backstory. You know, you're clearly hiding something, and like when people talk to you near your old town, they use like a different name, and your party's like, "Hey, what's going on? Why is he talking to you like that?" And you just like brush it off. I feel like that could add like a good dimension to your character. If you're the father of an up and coming rogue, you're just fucked. You're gonna die.
In one of many horrible ways.
Right. Including, but not limited to being stabbed by your own child. That could absolutely happen. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'm glad you're able to take that and turn it into something really interesting.
Yeah.
Because that is one way to have a useful murder hobo. Make them an object to kill for another party.
Yeah, exactly. You could work around that a little, but yeah, if you're the parent of an up and coming rogue, you just kind of fucked. I don't know a single.
It's like being.
Go ahead.
Disney mom.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like,
no.
Would you rather be a Disney mom or the parent of a D&D rogue? The answer is you're gonna die.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Oh shit. Same exact thing. Well, I guess probably Disney mom. I can think of a couple of cases where the mom didn't die, but
right, but if anything, you're just going to be dead off screen. And it's never absolutely horrible, usually.
Well, it's very tastefully done, whereas the D&D rogue's parents is,
one of them was turned inside out while they were alive or something. It's just not good.
Yeah, that's not great. I don't know about all that. But yeah, I thought that could be fun to do a couple of those. Like I said, I don't think it'd be good for a whole episode, but, you know. You got anything else?
Would you rather... Now, this comes from, let's say you're a character that has a choice about the way the world ends.
Okay.
Let's say the world is gonna end. You were unable to fully prevent it. And would you rather go along at this last moment with the big bad evil guy and put yourself in a secure and safe position and help end the world in a slightly worse way, but nobody knows that you went along with him at the very end? Or would you rather keep fighting and everyone knows that you failed?
Okay, so my choices here are the world is going to end no matter what, and I somehow omnisciently know this. And I can either continue to fight with everyone else or join the bad guy and make it worse, but I survive.
Yes.
I can tell you what me personally would do, just keep fighting. Because, again, we're looking at this from a D&D perspective, right? I don't think anything is that set in stone in D&D. I think a lot of times your DM's just trying to come up with cool bullshit, right? Like that is the essence of any DM.
Right. I was going at it less of a this is a D&D thing, more of you're gonna lose.
Okay. Well, I would argue devil's advocate from the other perspective that if you could continue living even with the bad person, you might be able to establish something like a wish spell or something to like reverse time, bring some people back, un-Thanos snap everyone, so that might be a reason to do that. But the reason I initially said no is because D&D is like really a party game, so from like a player DM perspective, if I take this route, I'm just playing by myself until I can get everyone back, and I don't want to do that. you know? I'd rather just go down with the ship.
Right, but that also just makes me think, how would a DM approach that sort of situation where the big bad evil guy is someone who would offer each of the party members a choice to join him?
What do you mean? You
And,
just offer them a choice.
well, yeah, but how would you approach that if it's something that's done sort of, let's say, not spoken to them, but telepathically into each of their minds? Like, each of their offers is a little bit different.
Okay.
And none of the players has to actually announce if they sided.
You do it exactly like that. Telepathy is a thing that exists, dude. You can just say to each and every player, you hear something in your head, and you go around and you tell them what they hear. And then if you want to keep it secret from there, tell them to text you or put something in the Discord chat or something.
Right, and now I'm just imagining the chaos that would come from that.
Well, that's exactly what the bad guy wants.
Yeah. He either wants allies or for his enemies to not be able to trust each other.
Right.
That would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see, you know, some end game shit like that. I like it, but I don't know, because a lot of the time when you're in a scenario like that, I don't know, I guess it depends on the person, but I'd say for me as a DM, I kind of would have laid out those options long before they got there, probably, you know, kind of like trying to get someone from the party, me as the DM, in the perspective of the bad guy. I would be trying to get someone from the party on my side a lot earlier to try to get like a wedge between them, or like a mole in the organization, so to speak.
Right.
And then it's up to that player to stick with the decision they made or redeem themselves, and I think that's probably a better way to do that.
It's kind of making me think of a certain fey creature from a certain adventuring party of a certain certain D&D playgroup.
I don't know what you're saying right now. Certain fey creature.
Yes.
All right. Well, you can tell me later, because I am not up to date on a lot of stuff there.
I mean, you should have been caught up to that episode.
Okay. No, probably not. Unless you can just say it, dude. You don't have to dance around stuff. Are you talking about Brennan Lee Mulligan DMing for Critical Role? What was that called? Calamity?
No, I'm actually just talking about Campaign 3.
Oh, no, I'm definitely not that far. I have no idea what episode I'm on. I have not been listening, and I'll catch up eventually. But you know, it's I love Critical Role and I love those D&D shows, but it is so hard to just sit down for 4 hours and listen. You know, I know,
right?
You can do that, but
yeah.
It's kind of rough, and I don't want to just do Cliff Notes, right? Because there's something inherently different about being read a summary of what happens versus experiencing it. But at the same time, it's like, oh God.
Right. Which is why I haven't said the name, in case there are people that listen to this that don't watch Critical Role and haven't yet, of which, if you have not, start with Campaign 2.
Start with Campaign 2. Yeah.
It's their first full one on their channel. It's amazing. You'll have about a month to 2 months of straight listening if you do something that gives you a lot of time to listen.
Yeah, so disclaimer, don't take my agony at 4-hour episodes as an incentive or an excuse not to watch or listen to any of this. The content really is fantastic. They're wonderful storytellers, and it is just a lot of fun to watch. And to Ale's point, yeah, Campaign 2 starts beginning to end. It's already finished, so you can do the whole thing at your own pace. Campaign 1 starts in the middle, like they picked up from their Pathfinder game. So if you're not really even familiar with D&D that much, it can kind of be hard to follow. And Campaign 3 obviously isn't finished yet. But Campaign 2, chef's kiss. Love that. Really good.
Very good. But that's, again, why I haven't been more specific with what I said. Don't want to spoil things for people who haven't seen it.
Right. Well, and I get that. I understand that, but you can tell me what you're talking about. Don't try to confuse me. I'm not that fast.
Hey, I'm vague.
Okay. Yeah. No, all good things. No, I do love those shows. It's just hard to keep up with sometimes. Anyway, I do want to transition back away from that because, again, talking about other podcasts on the podcast probably isn't good for the podcast. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, it's not that bad to talk about other shows that you like because it's part of the stuff that inspired us to try this.
That's true. And also, Critical Role's obviously the big one. But man, because I got you into Dimension 20, you can see the first series of that on YouTube in its entirety for free. Because it was College Humor. It's on Dropout TV, and you can pay and subscribe and watch the rest of it. It is so good.
Yeah.
Brennan Lee Mulligan is the most amazing human being ever. And like Matt Mercer, perfect DM, wonderful. So is Brennan. Totally
a
different.
Great DM. But yes, I will admit, there is something.
Yeah.
Just
they're great in different ways.
And terrifying about the way Brennan DMs.
Brennan DMs as if he is a sociopath, as if he were a robot with a machine learning algorithm specifically designed just to DM great games. This man's mind is nuts, really.
Well, I got to hear a little bit about his childhood at the end of at an interview we had with his mom at the end of his Starstruck series.
Yeah.
And he's been doing D&D and D&D related stuff since he was like 6.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, and it's not just D&D. This man is so sharp because like I'll watch other Dropout stuff or other College Humor stuff, and he is just so quick-witted. Like, it honestly amazes me. I don't know if that's just like a lot of improv practice.
It is.
Yeah, it's got to be, but he's just on point every single time.
Yeah. He's apparently been doing, D&D related stuff, improv stuff, that sort of acting lifestyle his whole life.
Yeah. Well, and I will say also it's a very different vibe. Like, Critical Role is really serious and grounded and has lighthearted, funny moments, a lot of them. Dimension 20 is very lighthearted and silly and has very grounded, serious moments. And I think you kind of need both in your repertoire, and you kind of need to just experience them both. And I love both of those shows. Also, didn't mention her, but quick shout out to Abria Iyengar, another great DM who has also guested on Dimension 20 and Critical Role. Don't want to leave her out.
No, she is amazing.
Right, well, I was just picturing all of the comments. Like, why didn't you talk about Abria? Abria is great, okay? God.
Yes. Her, Matt, and Brennan all have the same problem where they start talking to themselves while they come up with characters. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, I do that too. You kind of have to.
Yeah, I'm not that good of a DM yet.
Oh no, that's fine. You're okay, man. But yeah, it is fun to watch a lot of that, like behind the scenes, like creative process and what's going on with that. Yeah. Well, so over the weekend, last weekend, I was over at my friend's house, who is another DM. Their name's Q, and they are the master of masters. Like, they've been DMing I don't want to put a number on it, just because I don't know specifically, even though he's told me, but for a very, very long time. And he's the kind of dude that knows everything about everything. And I talked to him a little bit about it, and we thought it would be kind of fun if we did a segment with like deep dive lore bits, because literally he knows shit from every single edition, every single campaign setting. So if there's anything you want to learn or find out about, let me know and I'll ask him, and we'll try to throw that together. But that's not the reason I was bringing him up. The reason I was bringing him up is, yeah, what's up?
Is Q going to be our Danny?
Who's Danny?
Danny Carr.
Oh, no. No. That's different. Danny Carr is the lore master of what happens in Critical Role. Q's just a very wise and knowledgeable DM. And yeah, I was over at his house and we were just chatting, shooting the shit, talking about D&D and talking about the podcast a little. And he did mention like a couple of topics he thought might be interesting. And one I want to bring up because I'm very passionate about, and the other because he mentioned it and I thought it was worth drawing attention to. So I'll start with that one because I'm less passionate about it. But he was playing a game. Go ahead.
Before you start, I need to say let's take a small break here.
Okay.
Possibly, we might need to splice this episode. My wrecker just got here to help fix my brakes.
Can do. Okay. I will hold that thought and we'll get back to it. And we're back. Okay. So, dear listener, it may have only been seconds or perhaps minutes for you, depending on how long. Seconds for you. But it's been quite a minute since we were actually back, which is okay. I do remember what I was talking about. So the two things in particular that I never actually mentioned, the first one was how different classes actually use spellcasting. Q brought this up because he was playing with some new players, and I think he was a sorcerer, and then the new players were like a paladin and a cleric respectively, and he had to explain like, no, my shit doesn't work like that. And the second one, which I'm far more passionate about than we might have to do a whole episode on, is gunslingers. I have lots of opinions about gunslingers in 5th edition, but let's start with the former. You play some spellcasters. I know you like sorcerer a lot, but you know what I say when different classes have different spellcasting?
What?
Like they do different things, right? So like
I thought you like had a saying.
No. I was just asking if you literally understood what I was talking about. But
no, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the way it was set up, it's like I thought you had a saying for.
Yeah, like if it ain't fireball, it ain't right or something. I don't know.
I mean, that is how wizards work.
No, it's not. Wizards.
I know.
Fireballs are great, but if you're just blasting off fireball one after another, you're not a very good wizard. Sorry.
Yes.
Maybe that's a hot take, but there's so much better stuff you could do. Anyway, my point in that is like, well, let's start with warlocks, for example. Technically, not spellcasters. They have a feature called Pact Magic, which is completely separate from spellcasting. You only get maximum 2 spell slots, and they always, when they level up, that's it. You can't cast anything at a lower spell slot. You just have those 2, and they level up. But you do get them back on a short rest, and you have a lot of like Eldritch invocations to help like round stuff out a little bit, right? And then like, I believe clerics and paladins are the same in that they get their entire spell list, but only have a certain number they can prepare a day. Is that correct? I think it is.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, I mean, we had plenty of time in between that break there, and I should have looked into it more. I had it in my head when we started talking about it, since then I completely forgot. But the
Right.
the weirder thing that I did want to mention is like wizards are by far the most unique in that every level they can add 2 spells to their spell book up to a spell slot they have access to, as well as they can find spell books or spell scrolls around and transcribe those into their spell book. But just because they have it in their spell book does not mean that they can cast that spell. They have to prepare a certain number of spells per day, based on, you know, how many they can do. And those are the only spells you can cast. So even if you have 100 spells, right, you don't really have access to all those spells. There's so many, and a lot of the times, I'll say, unless you're playing like a module, a lot of DMs in homebrew settings don't think of the wizard, and they won't leave spell books or spell scrolls out. So you're really stuck with 2 new spells a level a lot of the time, which is unfortunate. But
Yeah.
even...
And wizards are generally the only ones that constantly have to actually look for materials.
Yeah. Well, and that's... I guess that depends on your DM. Because there is a gold cost for copying spells into your spell book based on what the spell level is, but it doesn't necessarily say what that's for. It just says, hey, it's like for practice, I guess. So you go through like ink and paper trying to figure out, okay, if this spell is actually going to work or not. And then you never role play that. You're just like, yeah, I'm going to take the time to
I've heard it described, and it might have been by you, but it might not have been, is that any sort of scroll or note you get is probably written in wizard shorthand. So most of the gold and materials you're spending to transcribe it is transcribing that shorthand into your own shorthand,
right?
So you can cast your own spell.
I definitely said that, but I might have got that from someone else. So just to be clear, if anyone wants to take credit for that, I did say it, but I think I heard it somewhere. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's why it takes time and money to actually transfer something into your spell book. Even weirder than that, because 5th edition is really lax with this, and I started in Pathfinder. Do you know how a wizard prepares spells in Pathfinder?
No.
Say I wanted to cast Fireball that day. Fireball's in my spellbook, but I might need to use Fireball more than once. I have to prepare that spell twice.
Yeah, no, I have been told about this. That's just awful.
Yeah, no, it's literally the worst. But it's based on something called, like, correct me if I'm wrong. Well, you probably don't know, but I think it's based on something called Vancian magic, which comes from like a series of books written by someone Vance, right? And the idea in that is that spells are these kind of like wild concept, and writing it down itself is the spell itself is a magical thing. So that's kind of why you're always having to like write down the spells. You only can know cantrips, because at a certain point it's like, okay, well, I've cast Fireball every day for an entire year. Why do I have to keep preparing that? I should know that shit by now. But it's a holdover from this idea that literally you would cast a spell and it would go out of your head. The energy, the essence of the spell itself leaves your brain, right? So that's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot on wizards. Sorcerers are kind of similar. Do you want to cover that one? There's no spellbook, obviously.
I mean, right. They just kind of inherit and innately know this magic.
Right, and you don't have access to your full list. How many can you pick per level?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that I could look it up, I guess. But he said I should mention this for new players. We're totally botching it right here. It's been a minute. Okay.
Okay. What did he say to mention?
Well, he just said, hey, I think it'd probably be a good idea for, you know, like people that haven't played the game to like go through and say, hey, magic kind of works differently for different characters. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And then I just got up here right now and I was like, yeah, so this kind of works like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest distinction is wizards operate most differently. Warlocks don't even really have spell casting. And then like clerics and paladins have access to their full list, but still have to prepare a certain number per day, I believe. Let me double check. Sorcerers, they classically have a lot less options than wizards do. I believe they have the same spell list, or at least a somewhat similar spell list to wizards.
It's close.
Right, but they're a lot more restricted in the spells they can actually learn, and I think once they learn those spells, they don't have to have a certain number prepared. The spells you choose to learn are the spells you have prepared. It's just a lot fewer, and that's kind of made up for by meta magic, which no other class has.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Are we gonna get into the absolute dregs of magic casters?
I mean, we could. Like I said, I wasn't fully prepared for it. I knew we were coming back to this, and I should have looked it up, and I didn't, man. I just didn't. So that's on me. I mean, there's also like magical subclasses, like the fucking arcane knight. Arcane trickster, eldritch knight. Yeah, I was mixing them up. I was like, that's not right, but I'm gonna say it. And those operate a little differently as well. There's a lot.
They pretty much turn you into a half caster.
Right. I mean, I don't know if you want to go that far. I feel like Eldritch Knight especially is a niche case, because I really don't know how many people actually choose that. You'd be a lot better off, again, my opinion, multi-classing Sorcerer or something else than actually using that as your fighter subclass, because there are just so many other better fighter subclasses. And it also kind of like splits your attention a lot, especially because it puts you into an intelligence-based caster, where you're probably not built for that as a fighter, but you might be better off with a little bit of charisma, especially if you're going for like a paladin sorcerer. is a paladin itself is probably better than an Eldritch Knight. And then splashing sorcerer is probably better too. So I don't think we need to get into the whole half caster thing, because it is a thing and I hate it. especially if you're trying to multi-class. Then you gotta pull out the player's handbook and you gotta go through the chart, and then you gotta add all your stuff up, and then it's like, okay, I have this many levels from this many levels from that, and then you have to do math, and it's D&D, it's all math, but still.
It's all math, but some of it is fun math.
Right. Some math is more fun than others. And, well, also there's like Psy Warrior is a fighter subclass, which doesn't use any actual magic ability at all. It's basically a Jedi. You can force push stuff.
It just gets into the crazy world of psionics.
Right. Well, and it doesn't use it doesn't use intelligence, right? It's more of a built-in class. So I'd say all around just better. Rune Knight too. You get these runes that you can like equip to your weapons and armors that give you little magical effects, and altogether I think that's a better class than Eldritch Knight. And I think again, correct me if I'm wrong, if you know, Eldritch Knight is like a holdover class. Like I think it was a prestige class or something in earlier editions. Okay. All right.
You know that 5e is kind of my first edition.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so with Eldritch Knight spellcasting, when you reach 3rd level, you augment your martial prowess with the ability to cast spells. See Chapter 10. The general rules of spellcasting in Chapter 11 for the Wizard spell list. So you do get the Wizard spell list, but it is very limited. I think you can only take, like, abjuration spells, like Shield and, like, Mage Armor. Not that you would use Mage Armor if you can use Full Plate, but hey, it's
Right.
there.
But that begs the question, can you use shield while holding a shield?
Of course you can. Of
God.
course you can. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Have you heard about this other thing? You do, like, you're an abjuration wizard, and you can cast shield to bump up your ward by 13 points, and then you can get, like, Eldritch Adept to get the one that gives you Mage Armor that you can cast anytime, which also gives you, like, 13 points. And then if you, like, splash 1 level Warlock, you can do, like, Armor of Agathis, and you can have, like, a plus 30 to your hit point total as a wizard. And, and you can do that whenever you want, because it's unlimited casting of Mage Armor with the Eldritch Invocation.
Oh.
No, that's just something fun you can do.
Yeah, that's a bit nuts.
Yeah. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of all the stuff, but yeah. So there are full casters, half casters, and I believe there's even 1/3 casters as well. Is Arcane Tricksters 1/3? I think.
Maybe.
You're killing me here. I didn't do any research. I need to riff off you, dude. Come on.
The general way I think about it is a full caster is one that can get up to 9th level. A half caster is one that cannot.
Yeah, but there also is a limited number of spell slots involved. Like, I believe a half caster can only get up to 5 spell slots. Or up to 5th level.
5th level.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
that's right.
A paladin is truly what I would say is a half caster.
Right, and then I think the subclasses are closer to 1/3. It's very limited what they can do. And then Warlock's totally different with Pact Magic. Yeah, good. I'm glad we solved that, and I don't sound like a total idiot. I'll be honest. A lot of the time, unless I am playing that class specifically, I totally forget about it. Or I have a player in my game who's specifically running something like that, because then it's my job to know. You know, if I have someone playing an Arcane Archer, I need to know, okay, how many spells they're going to get, I need to be ahead of them, so that, especially if you're playing with a new player, if something comes up...
I don't think Arcane Archers get spells. I think they just
Trickster.
have those arrows.
I've done it again. I meant Arcane Trickster. Arcane Archer does not get spells. Did I say Arcane Archer? God.
You did.
I'm all over the place, man. Okay. All right.
You're just thinking from the place of a wizard, and all these lesser magical classes sort of blend together.
Why play wizard when you can play... Or why play anything else when you can play wizard? The only...
No, why play wizard when you could play a better wizard?
Exactly, yeah. Wizard's my favorite. I'm a little biased, just so everyone knows out there. I'm just a little biased. Wizard is the best. Sorcerer is good too. I like the meta magic, but you can now pick that up as a feat,
Right, and I have a tendency whenever I play a sorcerer to greatly injure my allies.
Right. Well, and warlocks and clerics can be fun too, especially because they pick up their subclass on level 1, so they're a lot more powerful at level 1 than other classes that would have to wait till level 3 to get extra features.
A cleric is just straight up, they have divine magic. They need that subset right away at level 1.
I agree.
Or they don't have their magic.
No, I agree. Right, because
paladins are not specifically divine
they,
magic.
They take a general oath. I believe it's worded in like the player's handbook. They take like a general oath, and then at 3rd level they like really nail in and define what that oath is going to be. It is also divine magic.
Right, but it's also, some of it is magic that is just of that oath. They have such a force of personality that it is like faux divine magic.
Right, exactly. And yeah, bards are kind of like that too. It comes from their person. It's the magic of creation.
Yes.
It's not divine, it's not arcane, it's just fun magic.
Yeah. And oh boy, do bards get fun magic.
Yes, they
That
do.
is the next caster I was planning on playing.
Bards are good. Again, I'm biased. Wizard is my favorite. Bards are good. I wouldn't really say there's any bad classes in D&D other than the original Beastmaster Ranger, but you can have a lot of fun with almost everything, and bards, I think, offer a ton of utility. Like, you can pick a bard at level 1 and then go any direction with it you want.
Oh yeah. Like, there is even just a specific kind of bard where pretty early on in levels, you can almost never lose you can pretty much never lose a deception or persuasion check, because the lowest you can roll is a 10 and you have like a plus 12.
Yeah, you can do that almost instantly. You can give yourself expertise, and then you have reliable talent. Or is that a rogue thing?
No, that's also a bard thing.
Yeah, it's also a bard thing.
Bards are magical rogues.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's the other thing. Don't play Arcane Trickster. Just be a bard.
Yeah.
So we're getting a little late now. So I kind of want to do a whole episode of this, but I do want to briefly mention gunslingers, man. Why hasn't anyone done this correctly? And we mentioned this earlier in the episode. I love Matt Mercer. And before any critters get up in the comments on the YouTube video or add us on Twitter, like, I'm not, like, Matt Mercer is great. I love it. I hate his gunslinger class. I hate it. And just before you start angrily typing, Matt Mercer is the kind of person that would definitely understand where I was coming from and accept my opinion. The reason I don't like it as well is because first of all, it's a fighter subclass, which makes sense for what he was trying to do. Like, he was moving from Pathfinder to 5th edition. Percy was already a gunslinger, and he did the best he could. But yeah, I don't think it works super well as a fighter subclass. I think you really need to, like, pound out and make its own classes. And then the other thing glaring that it really needs is grit. There's no, like, actual grit mechanic. And I have at one point went through and had a whole document where I made a gunslinger with, like, multiple archetypes for it. One was like a spell sniper that specifically was more like that artificer one that came out. One was like I think I called it like a desperado, which is kind of like a dude with like a 6-gun, and he was kind of like the rogue swashbuckler. Like, you go in and out of combat. It's all about, like, fast motion. And then I had a standard one that I don't remember what I called. I'll see if I can find that document. But yeah, cool. There's just a lot of stuff missing from it. Namely grit. You know, that was my favorite thing as a Pathfinder gunslinger. The grit was so good. But then also,
I don't know anything about gunslingers.
That's okay. I could probably do the whole episode.
I don't even know much about Matt Mercer's gunslinger.
Well, it's serviceable. in a pinch. But there are so many people when I like bring up online or when I search, hey, has anyone made like a good gunslinger class? They all send me to Matt Mercer's, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want. And to be clear, Matt Mercer has made amazing classes. I love the Cobalt Soul Monk. I love the Blood Hunters, but the gunslinger one just isn't good. And you really,
there's a reason it's not on D&D Beyond.
it is. It absolutely is.
It is?
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen it.
It might be in homebrew, but it's definitely there.
Oh.
And again, I don't want to go too much into it because I do think I want to touch on it later. But basically, I decided the way to really make this work is to really look at how firearms are used in a D&D combat. And the way Matt Mercer did his is he made his gun super powerful because, of course, guns would be super powerful, but then also had like a misfire chance, which I hate. I hate that there's a chance where I'm shooting my gun and it's going to jam up, which I get a lot of DMs like that, especially for flavor. Oh, their new weapons are going to, whatever. A gunslinger, his one thing is shooting guns. His gun is not going to jam, right? So I think with their firearm proficiency, I think I did this in my little write-up, their specific gun is something that they own and they tinker with, and it doesn't jam. And also, I kind of scaled the damage back to be more like cantrips, because obviously, like, Firebolt or something will scale up as you level up, but it's you do it once, you cast it like a spell, and it'll do 1d10, 2d10 at level 5, and it's comparable to your fighter getting 2 hits. It's obviously not the same thing, but it's comparable. And I like the idea of a pistol basically being a firebolt. You get a d10, and maybe you get plus to dexterity on it. I think you do. And then I also like the idea of like a shotgun doing like a cone effect and them having to roll a dex save. Anyway.
Yes. It's quite literally got dragon breath shot.
Pretty much. Yeah, so I would love to see if I could dig that up. I think I checked my Google Drive pretty recently and I couldn't find it, which would be quite a shame, but I could definitely dig into that more. We are getting to the hour point here. You got any last thoughts?
Not really. Kind of got an empty head this time.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Having an empty head, no thoughts. It's kind of like the opposite of goblin mode.
Okay, what's goblin mode?
I don't know.
A full head and lots of thoughts?
Full head, lots of thoughts, tiny little angry noises, goblin mode.
Okay.
Lots of hyperactivity.
I've never heard that term before. Is that a thing people say?
Yes.
Oh, who says
goblin
that?
mode is most definitely a thing.
I've literally never heard of that.
A lot of D&D players are just straight up goblins.
Okay, well, I do understand that. There's
yes.
even a campaign around that, We Be Goblins. That's a lot of fun.
Haven't heard of it.
You've never heard of We Be Goblins? You should check it out.
I've never heard of We Be Goblins.
You should check it out. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I found a song called Goblins by a band called Necro Goblin.
That's pretty good. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, they sing about space goblins.
Hell yeah. That's great. All right. Well, if you got nothing else, I really got nothing else. Sorry, everyone, for that minuscule break in the middle that you will not have noticed, but it did delay us by a couple days. Normally, I'd say follow us on Twitter, but at the time of recording, it is late November, early December. So don't do that. Twitter might not be there. Just
person.
But yeah, if you're listening, like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. And we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.